Good morning. Welcome to Scholar IAS Current Affairs classes. Today we are going to look into the important current affairs issues of February 5th. Let's go into the session. So first issue is with respect to OBC subcategorization. This OBC subcategorization issue is very important with respect to mains GS2 polity part and mains GS2 social justice part. So basically what is the exact news? Recently, before few years, central government had appointed Justice G. Rohini as the committee head to examine the subcategorization of OBCs, and the commission has submitted the part of its report, and the central government had further extended its tenure to submit the full report. So this is the issue, and let's go into the issue in detail. So why subcategorization of OBC is required? Basically, right now OBCs are given 27% reservation in jobs as well as in education under the central government, and it is seen that the affluent sections of OBCs have secured major part of this 27% of reservations, and also this subcategorization would ensure that all the communities in OBCs will get benefited, and the 27% majority of the 27% is not enjoyed by only few communities. So subcategorization is important to ensure that equitable distribution of representation among all OBC communities. Recently there has been another initiative by the center, which is that the National Commission for Backward Classes have been ensured with constitutional status, and a constitutional bench of Supreme Court has also opened the legal debate on subcategorization of subcategorization of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes for reservations. So what is the Justice G. Rohini Commission's terms of reference? First, the Commission has to examine the extent of inequitable distribution of benefits of reservation. Second, to work out a mechanism, criteria, norms and parameters in a scientific approach for the subcategorization within OBCs. And then once the subcategorization is done, classification into respective subcategories are important. So these are the terms of reference, and the other terms is like correcting the ambiguities and correcting the spelling errors and all these things. So main issue is that first we have to understand what is the distribution of inequitable benefits, and second how to classify OBCs, and third class and grouping all the categorized OBCs into different groups. How smooth the work has been. Major problem with respect to the work is that the data for various sections of the society is not available, and government is hoping that census 2021 will provide adequate data on OBCs. So what have been its findings so far? The Rohini Commission's report is providing a very good insight into the issues with respect to OBC, which is that 97% of all jobs and education seats have just gone to only 25% of the subcastes classified as OBCs, and second, 25% of these jobs just have gone to 10 OBC communities. On the other hand, 37% of the OBC communities did not have any representation in jobs and education institutions. Also, it is found that non-deserving general candidates taking the OBC benefits, and they've been declared as not found suitable. The government is also considering the revision of income limit for creamy layer of the OBCs. Right now the income limit is 8 lakhs, and now the government is considering to increase the income limit for the creamy layer for OBCs. And the full report could have huge political consequences and face a judicial review. So this is one of the important issue right now in terms of distributing benefits across the sections of OBCs in an equitable way and provide social justice. Second issue is with respect to nutrition program. This nutrition program is important in GS2 social justice and prelims economy part. In the Union Budget 2021, the government has announced to merge the existing supplementary nutrition program and the Poshan Abhiyan. We all know that Poshan Abhiyan is a flagship nutrition scheme which is launched by the central government few years back, and this supplementary nutrition program is being merged with the Poshan Abhiyan. The merger, the ultimate reason for the merger is to strengthen the nutritional content, delivery, outreach and outcome. The new scheme would now be called Mission Poshan 2.0. However, the allocation of the nutrition program has reduced significantly compared to the previous budget. On one hand, the scheme is evolving, and on the other hand, the budget provisions are not adequate, so it presents a big contradiction. So nutrition programs in India. First, we look into the Poshan Abhiyan. Poshan Abhiyan was launched to reduce the stunting in children between age 0 and 6 to 25% from 38.4% by 2022. Also, the SNPs as a part of the Integrated Child Development Services targets the children from 6 to 6 years and the pregnant and lactating mothers. These two schemes are being integrated now and it forms Poshan Abhiyan 2. Further, Saksham Anganwadi was launched by merging the umbrella ICDS Anganwadi services and the scheme for adolescent girls, which we call SAG, and the National Crush Scheme. All these three things also is being merged and then termed as Saksham Anganwadi. As the multiple schemes have been merged, it is difficult to see how much funds have been reduced. So this is one issue right now we are facing. So the next subheading is, what is the nutritional status in India? Only 5.9 to 29% of the children aged between age of 6 and 23 months get adequate diet. Global Nutrition Report 2020 says that there has been little progress in meeting the targets of reducing anemia among women of reproductive age, because anemia in reproductive age of women of reproductive age is very key factor in determining the health of the child. Second, this about 51.4% of the women aged between 15 and 49 years are said to be anemic, and with respect to children, the under 5 children's 34.7% of the children are stunted, which is very higher than the average of 21.8% in the Asian regions. Also, India has failed to meet the target for wasting, as 17.3% of the children under 5 are affected by wasting, which is also higher than the average of 9.1% in the Asian region. So let's analyze how far this merger is going to benefit the nutritional outcomes in India. First is, it is not clear how the merger will improve the nutrition. It might optimize the resource and focus things, but on the outcome basis, it is not very clear how it will improve the nutrition. What is the logic behind it? Second, Mission Poshan does not address the problem that the earlier programs failed to address. So already the Mission Poshan itself is pretty inadequate in bringing out nutritional outcomes. Also, for example, SNP did not touch infants between ages of 0 to 6 months, and nor did the Mission Poshan. So ages of 0 to 6 months, children are literally being neglected. So this have to be taken care of in the future amendments that is going to be amended in the schemes. So as a result, there is a suboptimal breastfeeding, particularly the initiation of breastfeeding within 1 hour of the birth. The government has announced Mission Poshan would target to improve the nutritional outcomes across 112 aspirational districts. These 112 aspirational districts are India's most backward districts, and government is focusing to improve these districts. Once we improve these 112 aspirational districts, naturally the human development of the overall India will improve to a greater extent. So that is the strategy. So the conclusion is that any program aiming to improve the nutritional status of women and children in our country should cover all the districts, as restricting to aspirational districts may not provide the desired result. So whatever focus we are giving in these 112 aspirational districts, we also have to have a proper attention to other districts with respect to nutrition, because nutrition is one aspect where it is directly linked to IMR and MMR. So we can reduce IMR and MMR by improving the nutritional status of pregnant women as well as children. So third topic is Deep Ocean Mission. This particular topic is important in Mains GS1 Geography part and Mains GS3 Environment part. Union Budget 2021 and 2022 have announced a Deep Ocean Mission covering deep ocean survey exploration projects for conservation of deep sea biodiversity. Government aims to understand the ocean for both resources as well as for conservation, but both these things, developmental as well as the conservation aspect, is pretty conflicting in nature. So what is the rich biodiversity of deep oceans? Deep oceans have very rich biodiversity, but the pathetic thing is that only 11% have been discovered. 89% of the deep ocean species are not discovered. So we have a great task in discovering the remaining species in the deep oceans. On the other hand, the many species have been extinct because of the resource explorations. So what these two facts tell is that we need to balance both the resource utilization as well as the conservation aspect, else we would lose out the deep ocean resources. As a result, in long term, this would prove to be a problem for India. So now we are going to look into what are the projects that India has been focusing on deep ocean and how far it is progressing. Primarily, Ministry of Earth Sciences have developed a project or is initiating a project named OSTROMS. This explains as Ocean Services, Technology, Observations, Resources, Modeling and Science. So this is nothing but a remotely piloted operating vehicle which will be developed for the shallow waters of up to 500 meters depth under. It will go 500 meters under the depth of the water, and then it will record high quality images and visuals of coral reef biodiversity with the spectral irradiance. So this particular basically it's a surveillance as well as a recording project. It will record the biodiversity present in the deep oceans. The pathetic part is that no budgetary allocations have been made for this project since last year. So as a result, the biodiversity mapping scheme like this is getting problems. Second, this OSMART has 16 objectives including collection of information of marine living resources, monitoring pollutions in the Indian Ocean, and developing underwater vehicles. The project will also be used to carry out exploration of polymetallic nodules and gas hydrates from the deep waters in the site of 75,000 square kilometer. It was allocated to India by the United Nations in Central Indian Ocean Basin. So what are gas hydrates? Gas hydrates are very key resources present in the Indian Ocean and other parts of the marine resources in India. The gas hydrates are nothing but ice-like crystalline minerals that forms when low molecular weight gas combines with water and freezes into a solid under very low temperature and moderate pressure conditions. Most gas hydrates are formed of methane. Gas hydrates in ocean can be associated with unique biological communities that use hydrocarbons, hydrogen sulfide for carbon and energy via process of chemosynthesis. We have studied chemosynthesis in our school days. It is nothing but usage of chemical substances to synthesize food. So gas hydrates is one of the agent where the biological organisms use these to produce energy for their survival. So these gas hydrates may contain roughly twice the carbon contained in all reserves of coal, oil, conventional natural gas combined, making them a potentially valuable energy resource. Now we are focusing on decarbonizing the economy, and but India cannot go too far with respect to decarbonizing because we are in a developmental state. So we are trying to do our best with respect to providing green energy, and at the same time we are trying to reduce the dependence of the petroleum and other things which we are importing. So one proper strategy would be to explore deep oceans and find different energy resources so that India is self-dependent on energy. So the gas hydrates is also dangerous as their comparison can release large amounts of methane. We all know that methane causes asphyxiations where the person suffocates and it might even cause death. So gas hydrates which has the cumulative amount of methane when it releases, it can cause dangerous consequences. Methane is also a greenhouse gas that could impact the climate change. Sudden release of pressurized methane gas may cause submarine landslides which in turn can trigger tsunamis. So we have seen the nature of gas hydrates and where it is used, how it is used by the organisms, and what is the use of gas hydrates for India. Other than that, we have also seen the negative aspects of gas hydrates to an individual person, to the earth, as well as to the geography. So these are all the aspects that we have for you today. For more videos and content, please visit www.scholar.com. Thank you. Have a nice day.